Kent Summers is with us for a couple of minutes now, AZ Central Sports. He is on the beat of the Arizona Cardinals. He has another day to go by without having a head coach named at least at 12:20 in the afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Brad. How are you?
Well, I'd be a lot better if there was a coach in place. Are you surprised they don't have a coach at this point, Kent?
Maybe a little bit. I'm surprised overall that just at the pace that all the teams are at, really, with, two coaches hired, now 3 with Mike McCoy to San Diego. So a lot of teams are proceeding at this pace. I guess if you want to be kind, you'd call it deliberate, and fans who are upset are saying, they're dragging their feet. So I'm a little surprised at the pace of the entire league.
I'm getting a lot of, this morning and now midday, fans upset with the Cardinals. They're starting to lose a little bit of faith here that they've got this thing figured out.
Well, I can understand that, and I respect the passion that people have for this team, especially after a 5-11 season. But, I look at it like, okay, who did they really miss out on? They wanted to interview Andy Reid and didn't get a chance because he took the Kansas City job, and Chiefs, by all accounts, gave him full control of football operations. Well, the Cardinals weren't going to do that. Mike Bidwell made that clear, that there was going to be more of a model that the other NFC West teams have had, where it's a kind of a shared power structure between the GM and coach. They missed out on Mike McCoy, the offensive coordinator of the Broncos. But, can anyone sit here and say that, Mike McCoy is going to be a better head coach than Rod Chudzinski, who the Browns hired a week ago, or say if the Cardinals hire Ray Horton? I can't tell you who's going to be the better head coach. So I'm not sure they've missed out on anybody just yet. And we'll see. I think this whole thing obviously has to come to a head, though, in the next couple of days.
Okay, so Ken Summers with us, AZ Central Sports. So we know Ray Horton's name is there. We know for certain that they've talked to Todd Haley, or we don't know that for certain? I mean, everybody can report, but do we know that there's been any face-to-face?
Yeah, they talked to him. Okay. There's no doubt. They talked to him. That's been confirmed. I don't think it happened in Arizona. I'm not sure it happened in Pittsburgh. It happened at, kind of the Dick Cheney undisclosed location kind of thing. But they talked to him and interviewed him, and I think Todd wanted to keep that quiet for some reason that I'm not sure that made any sense other than to Todd. But, yeah, I think right now, I mean, if I had to put, if I had to rank them, I would think it's Horton, Haley, and then and Jay Gruden in that order. But that's just a guess on my part.
Okay. Do we see the possibility of them extending this out? Darrell Bevell just came across. He's going to interview in Jacksonville now that he's freed up in Seattle. Darrell Bevell's name's been attached to Chicago. We can go through all these coordinators' names, Kent, and try to throw a dart and hit one. Does his name make any sense here in Arizona?
I think it makes sense. I mean, what he's accomplished with a young quarterback, he's worked under some very good offensive coaches in his career. He's obviously from Arizona. Not that that's a big thing, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, I have not heard any indication whatsoever that the Cardinals are interested. And as far as I know, they have no plans to bring him in or to ask permission. I guess they could. Anything's possible in this, but it really seems like they've narrowed it down to the guys they've already interviewed.
Why not Bruce Arians? I've had some fans ask me on that one.
That was interesting to me. I talked to somebody close to him a couple of days ago, and the Cardinals have not asked permission, haven't done it. I don't know whether it's they didn't want to bring somebody in who had Steeler ties. They wouldn't bring somebody in who's 60 years old. I don't really know. Those don't seem like very valid reasons, but, he's obviously won in Pittsburgh and did well coaching Ben Roethlisberger and obviously Andrew Luck last year, although you can make the case that a lot of coordinators would look good with those two guys. So it's been a little bit surprising that they didn't at least talk to him.
At the end of the day, though, is this just not a good job or as attractive a job because you're in a division where you're going to get your head kicked in probably for the next couple of years? You don't have a quarterback in place, and you really don't know if you're going to have any say or any control over the roster. Do you think any of that stuff is bearing on why they were passed on by McCoy and of course, Andy Reid? I would think full control. That was the big reason there. Do you think those reasons have any impact as to why they haven't gotten this done yet?
I think they have an impact. I think one, you look at, I think the biggest thing is they're unsettled at quarterback, which is why there's an opening in the first place. If they had an answer at quarterback, I think Ken Wisenhunt would still be the head coach here. I think, two, you have a general manager here, Steve Keim, who's in his first year. That obviously, it's an organization that hasn't won consistently. I think, for it, whether it's fair or not, the Bidwell name still hangs like sort of a dark cloud in some people's minds over the organization. How committed are they to winning? I think, people around the league, still have that idea that, that's the Cardinals, that they're not going to be able to give you or not going to give you the resources that it takes to win. And I think, being in this division is a difficult thing. I mean, you look at, young quarterbacks at the three other teams, and it's going to be hard. So, I think all of that figures into, and if you're Mike McCoy and this is your one prime opportunity to be a head coach, are you going to go to San Diego where you've got Phillip Rivers, or are you going to go to Arizona where you've got who knows? Right.
And most coaches nowadays, I think it's much different 10 years ago, but coming into this job, you're only going to get about 3 years, right? I mean, you're not going to get the 4 or 5 years in all likelihood. If you're
right.
And so I think that's got to weigh in here too.
Yeah, and it's increasingly, I've seen it over the last 4 or 5 years, for candidates are paying a lot more attention to what quarterback do you have in place. I think one reason this job was attractive, it sounds odd to say, to Ken Wisenhunt 6 years ago, is they had drafted Matt Leinart, and they had Kurt Warner, and he viewed it as, between those two guys, he could find something that worked here. And I don't know that people look at the situation now with Kevin Cobb and the money the team has invested, or John Skelton, or or Ryan Lindley, that you could say, okay, one of those guys is going to emerge. I feel confident about it, and I think that's a huge factor in this.
A couple other things before I let you go. Kent Summers with us, AZ Central Sports. So, Wiz, is he going to have a job? Do you think he's going to get any of these head coaching jobs that are left?
I think it's questionable, as they obviously he's not going to get this one. I guess he's in on the Eagles. I haven't heard that he's interviewed with Jacksonville. He interviewed with, Cleveland, Buffalo, San Diego, and didn't get those jobs. I don't know if he gets a head coaching job this year. I mean, he certainly could. From everything I hear, the Eagles were very impressed, and they seem to be kind of on the pace the Cardinals are on, that they're really going to exhaust all options in terms of interviewing people. I think at the very least he'll come back as offensive coordinator in the right setting. I mean, he could go to Denver and work with Peyton Manning, whom he has a relationship with. I mean, there's even somebody on the internet today threw out, Dallas is a possibility, where supposedly Jerry Jones wants, Garrett to give up play calling responsibilities. Maybe Wisenhunt goes there and takes Tony Romo under his wing. But I think one of those two things will happen. I don't know that he'll just sit out this year without coaching.
Last question. Why don't they just name Ray Horton the guy? I mean, I had Calais on it. The last 2 weeks, Calais is telling me on the air, 100% behind him, not just me, Brad, but several of my defensive teammates. We want Ray Horton as the guy. We've made that well known. I'm not saying you should do things based off a player, Kent, but we're at the point now, why don't you just name Ray Horton the head coach?
Well, I think they know they've got to fix the offense, and Ray is a defensive coach, and they've got Ray in their hip pocket, and that's an uncomfortable place for Ray Horton to be. If anyone knows Ray Horton, he is not going to be in anybody's hip pocket, but that's the situation in which he finds himself. And I think they felt like if they could find an offensive-minded coach who has a history of developing quarterbacks, or at least identifying quarterbacks and drafting them, or they could pick the brains of some of these guys about what do you look for, et cetera, in a quarterback, that they were going to take their time and do it, because they know Ray will take this job if he's offered, and if they could get, say, a Mike McCoy, an offensive guru, and keep Ray Horton as defensive coordinator, then, in their eyes, maybe they would have the best of both worlds. But, that plan doesn't seem to be coming together.
Right. Just go get Norv Turner and name him offensive coordinator and pay him a boatload of money. And
and that's, and there's speculation that's, Ray has done that. Mike Drecky's reported that Ray's, told them, I might be able to get Norv Turner as offensive coordinator. I might be able to get Mike Tice as offensive line coach. But even a coach can say that, and I don't know anything about it in Ray's case. A candidate can say that, but when it comes down to actually getting those guys to sign up, it can be another thing. And I think that's always a question, and that has to be a question in the back of Mike Bidwell's mind or Steve Keim's mind is, okay, if we hire Ray, what offensive coaches are we going to get? What direction is this offense going to go?
Right. Stay well. See you down the road. Thanks.
Brad.
Kent Summers, AZ Central Sports.